In this video, I'm going to talk through the pros and the cons of shared ownership. This was a question asked by a subscriber in the comments section below. If you've got a question or you want me to make a video on anything, drop me a question and I'll make sure I make it in the next video. So when it comes to shared ownership, if we start with the pros, one of the main things is that you can maximize your budget. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give you a live example of how this actually works. Now, if your income, let's say your household income, you've got one person earning £30,000 and one person earning £25,000. So that's a household income of £55,000. Now, typically, if you had a 5% deposit, then really you'd only get about £247,000 in lending, roughly, as an absolute maximum. And that also depends on many other factors, by the way, such as commitments, if you've got children, the mortgage term, and so on. But as a rough guide, 247,500. So if you added, let's say, a 5% deposit to that, you're not going to get much further above that. So you're going to end up somewhere around £265,000 as a maximum purchase price. Now, if you look at this shared ownership calculator, which I've put some kind of rough or average figures in, we've used the same income. We've used a 30-year mortgage term, 5.5% interest rate, which is quite expensive, but if you're using a 5% deposit, it's going to be around there. And so it's a 5% deposit, which is £10,000 based on the share value. So this, instead of having you a £260,000 purchase price, as I gave in the example outside of shared ownership, this could actually help you to buy a £400,000 property with a 50% share value. Now, of course, you are only actually owning £200,000 of this. So actually, your ownership is of lesser value than if you went out and bought a property just by yourself. The benefit is that the property that you live in is still a property that's worth £400,000, which might mean it gives you enough space for you and your family, or it's the property that you actually want to live in for a long time. So that's really the pro. Another one is that it can help you get on the ladder sooner. So obviously in this example, you're buying a higher valued property. So of course, if your budget was so low that unfortunately you couldn't buy somewhere in your area, this could actually help you get onto the ladder and buy a property that you want to buy. Now, this can potentially give you access to more lending options as well, especially if you've had some credit issues. There's a particular lender that we can look at that can sometimes lend to foreign nationals, but it does depend on your overall circumstances. I would say the main pro here, the main benefit is that it can help you get on the ladder quicker or buy a bigger property, a property that you want to stay in for a longer period of time. You can actually scale up the ownership. So if you start at 50%, of course, we do something called staircasing over time where you end up owning the whole property or more of the property. Of course, you would need higher income and more deposits put into the property over time for this to be able to work. Now, the cons of shared ownership for me is, of course, you're owning a smaller share than if you bought the property yourself. So you don't own the whole property, which therefore means that you'd be paying both rent and mortgage. So you still are paying some rent. So if you own half the property, you're paying half mortgage, half rent, which can, of course, get expensive. Typically, these do have quite high service charges, especially if you're looking at buying a flat through shared ownership. And these have been known to increase quite a lot. And there've been quite a lot of news stories in the press about this recently, of service charges for shared ownership properties rising a lot over time. In my personal and professional opinion, I really do think that if you can buy a property without shared ownership and it's still a property that you want to live in, then it's a much better idea to do so. Of course, shared ownership can be good to get you on the ladder if you can't otherwise, or let's say you could get on the ladder, but the property wouldn't be tailored to your needs for you and your family. So it can be a good option. It's always worth us looking into all the options. When I speak to a client initially, that's what we look to do. I know I mentioned credit issues earlier in this video. If you're unsure on your credit profile, then it's definitely worth having a look. I've put the link below to the best credit profile that you can use, in my opinion, which is Check My File. This uses the 3 main credit reference agencies in the UK that lenders use. If you download that, you can have a look at your credit file and it will give you a much better idea of where you stand currently. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got another question or you want me to make a video on something, drop it in the comment section below, as I will make a video on it, normally within a week. So drop that below. And of course, if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe and let me know.